Well, good morning, and welcome back into Inside the Game. It is Friday, February the 21st. I think this is not the last Friday, but it's the second to last Friday of the month of February. Jonathan Turner alongside Nathan Wangler. Happy to have you along today, wherever you're watching, near and far, and excited to have you wherever you're watching. And Nathan, man, first off, how was your third day?
Terrible. Because I watched the U.S. lose to Canada in overtime, much like they did in the gold medal game back when it was in Vancouver. And I remember watching that entire game. The only thing that was missing last night is obviously Doc Emmerich was not on the call, but it just frustrating because we're right there. I mean, I don't know how invested you are in the game of hockey. I mean, I know you're a Wings fan, and especially with all those great Wings teams. I think everybody Detroit in one way or another is a hockey fan because they do remember those good memories of those teams. So, but it's frustrating as someone who's followed the game growing up and as an American who's understood that we're one of the best, but we're still not the best. Canada still has that title as the best hockey playing country in the world. And I actually see the highlights playing right back behind you there. And it's, bless you, and it's reminiscent of what that tournament was in Vancouver. We beat them in the round robin, and then we lose in the gold medal game in overtime. And then in Four Nations, we beat them in round robin, and then we lose to them in the championship. So it's tough because we're right there. And I think it won't be long until the U.S. overtakes Canada in the sport of hockey. And I think this is just kind of proof, right? This is proof that if America puts their mind to something, and if they really want to be the best in a particular area, they can be. But sometimes it takes, bringing attention to the sport. And I thought that Olympic gold medal game really brought hockey to a new level. And then it kind of brought us to where we were yesterday with, coming as close as we did to winning that game against Canada. But it's tough to take that one at home. So I wouldn't say it was terrible. I take that back. I don't know if it was a terrible day per se, but that was a terrible way to end out the day. I'll certainly put it that way. But heck, they did a lot better of a job than the NBA All-Star game did. I'll tell you that much. It was the two All-Star breaks. They always happen at right the same time. And anytime you get to see international play, and this is why I want the best players available back in the Olympics. I know they kind of went away from that because it's in the middle of the NHL season. So obviously the league doesn't want to give up their best players to go play in the Olympics, but I missed that. I missed seeing the best of Canada and the best of the U.S. on the ice. And, we finish it 1-1, but they got the job done when it mattered the most. And it's because they still have the best players in the world. I mean, it's kind of like the U.S. in basketball, Yeah, France is catching up. Serbia is a lot better. There's countries all over, Germany, but it's not the United States. The game of basketball runs through the United States. It's always been that way, and it still is that way now. So, you could say the same thing about hockey and up north, but it's as a tough break. That was a tough break to see that one go down the way that it did. I think the soccer comparison would be like if you went to the Gold Cup and you played Mexico or something like that, and you lost in sudden death, or you lost in OT or whatever. So tough way to end out the day, but it was a great game nonetheless. And me, I mean, I'm a sucker for close and late and exciting. That makes my job worth doing. So great game, but tough way to end it out.
My question for you, so this was like in lieu of the All-Star weekend, right? This whole thing was like a mini tournament of sorts, right? So instead of playing the All-Star game like they've always done, we have East versus West and the skills competitions. Let's everybody go to your quote unquote, international home team, create the team, and then like these were all NHL stars who played on their quote unquote origin country or of origin against each other in this little mini tournament. It wasn't like there were players who weren't in the NHL who aren't playing at this level playing on these teams to help their
Mhm.
international squad. So this isn't really a truly international tournament of sorts, correct?
Yep, and it's just the 4 countries too.
Yeah, yeah.
Finland, Sweden, Canada, US, yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked that question, and so I know that this was the first year they've ever done this, and I know it was highly successful because it again it makes it more interesting. It makes it more marquee, right? It's not because the All-Star games, to be fair, I mean, like the NFL has just like that whole thing has just turned into a massive joke. And I don't mean it in the sense like it's a joke to do, but it's like flag football, like like
Right.
I mean I get it. You don't want people getting hurt, but I mean like
They're trying out for the Olympics when flag football will be available at the next
then why
Summer
don't
Olympics.
then why then to stop calling it the Pro Bowl? What you should do is okay. I'm sure a ton of players who play at that level that would love the opportunity to play in a full on pads game. So convert that to something else. So okay, you have your Pro Bowlers, you select them. They don't want to play, great. Then next man up. Just
The no bowlers?
yeah. Maybe. I mean, I
The
don't.
no bowl.
know. I just. I
Those
don't know.
old college dudes
But
that
to
you
be
don't
fair,
remember that
though,
are still
to be fair,
playing.
now every team gets like 7 players. I mean, it's not like, they're, I mean, I don't
That's
know.
funny.
It just seems dumb to me. Like the United States, when it comes to the MLS, they like play against like the backups of like, Arsenal and Manchester United. It's a joke. Like either treat it seriously or don't do it. Like I just, it's
No.
do it seriously or don't. So what the NHL did was they treated it seriously. Like watching that game last night in overtime, and I did not watch this tournament at all, but I was in bed last night. TV happened to be on ESPN from what it's on right now, and I happened to be watching it, and it was in overtime. And I saw both the Canadians and the Americans, I mean, like, fighting like hell. I mean, full-fledged, like, no jokes, just were
Yep.
speeding around the ice as fast as they possibly could in overtime in order to win that game. And to be fair, like, that's what the fans want. The fans want a game that's meaningful. There's a reason why Major
Yeah.
League Baseball changed the whole, like, all-star thing. So if you win, you host the World Series, right? They put some stakes in it. Now they're
Mhm.
stakes, and that created this opportunity for teams to maybe take it more seriously than others. Now, baseball is one of those sports, though, to be fair, that the chances of you getting hurt are slim to zero. It's just it's I would put it, slightly less than that of flag football, getting hurt, right? I mean, the average baseball player, it's just weird. Yeah, I'm just saying. Sometimes I play baseball. I'm not saying you can't get hurt in baseball, but I'm saying though is that typically it's a pretty no contact.
A
You're not
lot of wear and tear, though. A lot of wear and tear.
wear and tear. Yes.
Yes. A lot of wear and tear.
To be fair, I don't want to hear about it. You want to know why? You're making hundreds of millions of dollars. Baseball is the one sport, man, where you can make $400 million. Sorry, but to be fair, if you're an outfielder, you step up to the plate and hit the ball, or you don't hit the ball, and you're out in the outfield for, maybe run to a ball 4 or 5 times a game. I mean, there's not a lot going on. When wear and tear in an outfield, now, a catcher, a shortstop, the wear and infielder, the wear and tear on an infielder, holy cow, man! Like
Well,
that.
pitchers. Pitchers.
Yeah, pitchers,
UCLs.
huh?
It's not a natural motion.
Managers, the wear and tear on a manager. I mean, I can only imagine that. I mean, on those review phones in the bullpen phone, that wear and tear on that phone, man. Holy cow! Still grabbing that rotary phone from 1962. Let's bring him in. Bring in Jim.
Yep. There's a lot of wear and tear too with swinging the bat, though. I mean, I've seen a lot of back injuries, a lot of shoulders, a lot of just because when you're constantly trying to develop force and power, it means you're going to put your body through a lot of things. And so yes, in different ways, you're right. But you're right. It's the passion and it's the culture around hockey, but it's also the international rivalry between Canada and the United States. And it's always been there. And I feel like the NBA has the potential of creating something like this, of creating a Team USA versus Team World.
Who would that be with, though? It'd be with like Spain, right? Because I mean, I don't know.
The top 5 players in the world are all from international. So make a Team World and make a Team USA and have them play.
Oh,
that would be more interesting Because there's, and I talk to international kids who play collegiately over here who are like, yeah, like the world is catching up. And I agree. But like that Olympic gold medal game against France, okay, yeah, the US winning gold is not necessarily news, but it's more news now than it's ever been before. This isn't the 90s with the dream team. Like the rest of the world is right there. And so that was one of the more exciting basketball games I've ever watched in my life. And so they have to try and figure out something that is better than the current model than they have, Team Shaq and Team Chuck or whatever it was that they did this year. It's just it's not working out.
I wanna see like them just convert everything to trampolines, or like have them do trampoline thing.
Go play the All-Star game at a bounce house.
Or introducing tackling. I mean, like what I mean, because to be fair, the one thing that gets me is like, these rinky-tink tapping, the shooting arm, when you're going up for a jumper that, I get it at like U8 basketball, right? A kid comes in, smacks and the kid can't handle the pressure, but you're talking about an athlete that's been doing this for like 30 plus years and they know how to handle contact. And a lot of times they're going in looking for contact just to draw a foul so they get to the basket and takes a couple of free throws without, that to me is what ruins the game of basketball is the rinky tink, tacky, whatever you want to call it, fouls. And not saying that tackling should be involved, but I do feel like they need to level up the amount of contact that a player can get, when they're shooting a basketball. But that was not the purpose of today's show to talk about I think I think this is a great conversation too, because when we talk about the different types of all-star games, which one typically has been the best, right? And every single one of these all-star games at every level comes with some sort of a skills competition, right? All of them, baseball, home run derby, right? You've got in basketball, you have the skills dunks and all that kind of stuff, 3-point thing, which this year they changed it with time limits and you got points for not even shooting it, which was weird. And then you've got hockey used to be like the fastest shot, skating around. I don't know if they still did that this year or not. You watched it, maybe they did. MLS
no, I don't
has
think
their skills competition. Huh?
Yeah.
Did they have
no, from not from what I saw. It was just the tournament.
JT wants slam ball as the all-star game. Damn right I do. I'm thinking about from the standpoint of entertainment. As someone who is in my whole career now, my whole job is to think about entertainment value, and how do we deliver that, either that in the games that we cover or the media that we create. Is that what is entertainment? What is it that the viewer at home is looking for? Well, the viewer, the average sporting fan, let's not talk about your diehards. Your diehards are never going to like anything. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, they're never going to like anything. They're going to always have an opinion about this, that, or the other. So they might in moments be okay and happy, but in other moments they're not. But collectively, they're never happy because they're huge fans and they're purists. So to be fair, your purist fan wants this to be played on a pond, like that movie Mystery Alaska, where you're playing on this pond. Like, I mean, your hockey purist probably wants it on some lake someplace and just make it like really cool, right? And then you've got your diehard, like, I want this thing to have like tackling, with Nerf guns, like the old school, like Gladiator show. Remember the American Gladiator? Like, I mean, you probably have that person that just wants to just throw everything in the kitchen sink and do it to see what would work and what wouldn't work. Like, let's throw a car in there and see what happens. It's like you have these different varying whatever, and somewhere in the middle, the league has to figure this out. But the league doesn't give a shit what we think. Let's be honest. The league does not. You think the NFL gives a flying rat's butt about like what we think as viewers? No. They only care about making money, and anything that they can do to make money, they will. And the only reason the Pro Bowl is still around is because it still makes money.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, the Pro Bowl used to take place, like 2 months after the season? It was like literally like it would go to Hawaii, and it was like, and I thought it was like 2 months, maybe it was 2 weeks, but it was like at the end of the season in Hawaii. After Super Bowl, boom. And they realized that was terrible because your average fan didn't care about it anymore. But if you put it in between the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship, AFC Championship games, there's a lull, but you can garner attention during that lull. That's why they put it there. And this flag football thing was based on the players saying, I don't want to play because I'm going to get killed. I don't want to go get killed. I just want to go play. And so flag football was created.
Brian Dawkins ruined the NFL All-Star game for everybody. Have you ever seen that highlight? I forget, like a kicker or punter that just gets annihilated at the Pro Bowl game.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, I get it, man. You know, this is your career.
Yeah.
You're talking about millions and millions of dollars, and no one wants to go play a game that means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's why. Okay, so what? How do you make it mean something? You know, in that event, what do you do? Well,
you know what I think fans like? Pride. The fact that the guys out on the ice. Here's the thing that I loved about that tournament. In Canada, against that team, right, with the stacked lineup they have, you know, us being the underdogs, even with the best players available to us, still the underdogs. Out on that ice, they're playing the national anthem, and the entire stadium at full throat is booing it. And we haven't even started the game yet, and there's a visceral energy in the air about this game because there is so much passion. And again, a lot of it's tied into the political nonsense that's going on. And once again, I refuse to go down that rabbit hole on Inside the Game because we're all about positive vibes, happy puppies and rainbows. But there is that element tied into it. So it was the passion before the puck was even dropped that to me kind of brought that to life. So how do you create something even similar to that?
I have an idea. Oh boy. Are you ready? Here's my idea.
NBA Commissioner Jonathan Turner.
NFL, here's my idea.
Or NFL.
The Pro Bowl, you call it Pro Bowl week, and you still do all the excitement of the things that you do at the Pro Bowl. Flag football, whatever. But the teams that lost in the NFC and AFC championship game come together and play in a third place game that weekend. Boom.
Yeah. I like it.
That's what you do.
I like it. And then you got to, you tack on some incentives. Maybe there's a financial incentive. They're not struggling for damn money.
There's not a single player.
And it's funny because even these millionaire
player
athletes,
in the league that would not participate in that process.
No.
I can guarantee you right now. They would.
Yes.
Third place game. You make it. Hey, third place. You make it a big spectacle. And guess what? Now those two teams who would have gone to the Super Bowl are now playing each other. AFC versus NFC, which is the Pro Bowl, anyways. By the way. And you make that the Pro Bowl game. It now becomes meaningful. And you know what? That probably will generate just as much revenue.
Right.
And I say as a Super Bowl, but it would garner enough attention that could become like a second Super Bowl for you that season.
Right.
So, just saying.
Right. And you still consider the best players available. You still consider them Pro Bowlers. Like, it's not like you don't make it because you weren't in the third place game. But it does. I like that idea. So I like that for football. I like a world versus the USA game for the NBA. I really do. I really like that just because of where the world is now. And then obviously the Four Nations thing in hockey is it's unbelievable in my mind. I mean, the USA Canada is the best international rivalry and not just in hockey. I'd say maybe not in sports. France and in England they don't really like each other too much, but it's up there for sure.
Well, I think in soccer, if you look at the MLS, again, they typically they play an international team. They typically play a team from the Premier League, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if Steve is still watching, he might even know who they're playing, who the All-Star team they be playing this year. But typically, you take all the All-Stars, put them on one team, and they play against this Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, whoever, right? I don't like that idea because again, you're not bringing in. The fans aren't getting the cream of the crop of the Premier League. Like they're not getting that, right? They're getting maybe a handful of players that are part of that the first team, and everybody else is backups. They're not, you're not getting the best, right? Now, I'm not saying that to be always the case, but again, it typically is. And this tour that they do around, during the summer for the Premier League and for the Champions League teams that come in here. It's their scrimmages, it's their friendlies, it's their warm up to a seasons, and they're coming here and playing in our stadiums, and getting warmed up for their seasons, right? So, typically, again, in those environments, you might see you might have seen a Messi or seen a number of players across the pond maybe play a few meaningful moments, and then they're off the field again, right? And they're trying to eliminate roster spots, right? That's what you're trying to do in those moments. and giving other people an opportunity to get a look at in these meaningless games that do have impact and meaning to the teams as a whole long term, but then those moments they mean nothing. So I think if you're talking about the MLS All-Star game, I think you need to get back to, an East versus West, kind of mentality where, and again, you put something into it. First of all, I'm not a big fan of the playoff of the MLS where, you've got this first leg, second leg stuff that they do. I'm not a big fan of that. I like the single elimination all the way through. And the only reason that you do the first and second leg is money. That's it. It's a money thing, right? You go through this thing, and then there's MLS Cup, and I do believe the MLS still does the first and second leg, and then it's based on points scored away and all this other kind of stuff. Again, I haven't looked at the MLS playoff like setup here in a minute or two, but I'm just not a big fan of that. I just like single elimination. Like, everything else is single elimination. If you're trying to be like the other, basketball, baseball, and hockey when it comes to playoffs, and you want to just keep going. I'm not a big fan of that. I think single elimination makes it more higher stakes, but also you can't get the revenue from that multiple games, right? You think about, these games that go to game sevens, there's a lot of revenue on the table for those games, right? So we know that. But I just don't think soccer is built for that. It's single elimination. You go, right? And if you go across the pond, there is no playoff system. Like, they're like playoffs. What? No, it's the team that has the most points in the season wins. There's no playoffs. Right. So if we're talking about mimicking what other countries are doing and other leagues are doing, well, they're not doing those things. You just win it if you had the most points. You get promoted, and if you're at the bottom three, you get relegated. It's kind of how that works, right? It's like, so if I'm looking at this, okay, well, what's best for soccer? Single elimination is what's best for soccer. And while that might hurt revenue in the short term, I'm telling you, long term, it won't. And I just think, again, look at what happens in USL Championship, right? Or these other leagues. It's single elimination. You lose, you go home. You don't get to go to the next team's field and score there to win. And then now it's based on aggregate. You score. You took 2 goals at your home. They scored against you. You scored 2. Now we're tied. Now we go to penalty shootout. Makes no sense. It's just confusing to the average viewer. But yeah, I mean, but anyways, I think the All-Star game needs to get back to where it means something. And if it's draft picks, if it's whatever, then you go and you do that. Right. And I agree with you. If it's not meaningful, then why are we doing it? Because it's a money grab, which we talked about already. Yeah. But if the players aren't going to give it, the same attention and love that they do everything else, then it's not worth it. They're the ones who sell this, not the league. So if the players aren't bought in and they don't give it their all, then nobody gives a shit.
The Eastern Hemisphere versus the Western Hemisphere.
The North versus the South, right? We can do something like that. But hey, so yesterday, a couple weeks back, I was doing some reading, and I was on social media, and I was taking a look at some stuff, and I came across this new expo thing taking place in Novi called the North American Soccer Expo. And I had Bianca inquire to them about like what this is about. I'm curious, right? Whenever you start talking about there being a soccer thing happening in this country, especially one that's called the North American Soccer Expo, I had her, reach out to the organization, find out what it entailed, what was going on, and seeing how we could be a part of it. I had a great conversation yesterday with the organizers of that, and they offered us an opportunity to be presenters at this event. It's taking place in August. So National Soccer Network will be presenting at this North American Soccer Expo, the first week of August here, in just under 5 months, right? 6 months. And it's going to be really cool. All right. And I don't know what to expect from it. I don't know how many they expect between 2,500 and 3,000 people to be there. So which is, again, all soccer based people, coaches, clubs from around the country. So for us, it's an opportunity, to be in front of clubs and talk about what we're doing here at NSN, and help us kind of really continue to launch ourselves in a very meaningful way. And that was announced yesterday by the North American Soccer Expo that I will be presenting here in August, and I'm excited to be able to do that here and provide commentary and content to that organization.
And that'll again, it's just a matter of expanding outreach. It's cool that you're going to be able to get up in front of them though and actually detail it. And you want to talk about partners that will kind of help us launch in the right direction. That's another big step for us. And we talked about we always do it on Inside the Game, talking about bringing everybody under one umbrella. The fastest way to do that is to get in front of people. And so to be able to have that opportunity to get in front of the decision makers and those who are surrounding our game, I think is a major step in the right direction for us and for our company, and obviously for what we're trying to do here. And that's, kind of, you talked about how you heard about a soccer opportunity, and so you reached out. Obviously the end goal is to put us in a position to where we're the ones, breaking that news. We're the ones that, we kind of invite everybody to our place. So that'll be a great opportunity for you. And I'm looking forward to seeing at least what comes of it.
Yeah, and to be fair, even though they're like John's presenting, to be fair, it's probably going to be more of a team effort, right? Where it's not just me. And we'll obviously establish what that looks like here in the coming weeks and months, but it's an opportunity for us to be able to have a meaningful conversation about what we're doing and how we're doing it. And so I think that, like anything else, we'll make this thing what it can possibly be for us, which is hopefully a great thing. A lot of really exciting things happening that we'll be announcing here later today. I have been behind the scenes, talking with teams and clubs from around the country. We are announcing a new product here in March that I think is going to just be a game changer in the game of soccer. We've already talked about how we've launched NSN Nation, and this new product, this new service that we're providing is one that is going to, I think, will just be a game changer in the soccer space. So I'm excited about announcing that here in March. It's a really cool product, and we're excited about that. We have a whole new, we have at least 2 clubs to announce that will be, full club membership for every coach in their program. We'll be announcing those later today. And that again is, I think we're now up to, give or take, just under 400 members of NSN Nation. Think about that. It's only 2.5, 3 weeks old. And we already have close to 400 members. And that will continue to grow as we go down, go down the pipe here in the coming weeks and months. And then we haven't even introduced it yet to parents and players and referees. So when that happens, things are going to get, even more busy for us here at NSN. But so this is Film Room Friday, right? It is roughly 9:20 something here in the morning, 9:27. And I haven't had a chance to go back and look at any of the film, the things that we've done over the past week. What I will say is this: it is. So last Friday was our big thing. We talked about this. It was Valentine's Day. It was our first ever Chihuahua Savage broadcast. And what I do want to do here for a moment is I do want to just kind of show this game for a bit. And the reason why is, first off, skip this ad. So, we obviously had, Dan Stickrad and Neil Rule doing this game. And the reality is, when we start talking about what it is that we do, Nathan, like, these are the types of things that we do for our viewers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what you're going to be doing here in about 3 weeks. I think 3 weeks from today, right? On the 14th of March, you'll be doing one of these games for us, and you'll be in our studio doing it just like this, right? So again, you'll be in front of a green screen. You'll be on screen like this, matching up the game. In this game, we had a number of things that we included in our pregame. So, for example, we did a player profile for both teams, right? again, we had the player profile for each player, in for both teams, right? We did starting 11s, or sorry, not starting 11s, but like starting fives, right? So this is your starting fives where it rotates right on the screen, the lineup, right? It'll go to the next team here, there. So there's the next one, right? And that showed up on the screen, right? So again, putting the lineups on the screen, some things that right now even the MASL isn't doing, as a whole, right? And then they had their own score bug, right? They had their own thing, and then the things that we talk about doing, the added value of the in-game breaks, which me and you have talked about. Go here, yeah. So like our in-game breaks, where we have what we are pushing out to the world and things like that. So like this is the difference between, this is what we do. This is the stuff
Yeah.
that we do here at NSN. That is what we call leveling up, right? We start talking about the different types of stuff that we do. This is how we level up a broadcast, and that's the cool part about this. When we start talking about having multiple games happening at the same time, like again, this is the halftime break where both Neil and Dan are on camera during halftime. This game specifically we had two broadcasts happening at the same time, and so when that happens, we have what we call double action, right? And I think it's going to go back here. I gotta find it. It's like, you just like want to make sure you find it. But where is double action? But where, if I was double action, where would I be? I know, right? Oopsies.
I know you guys have done that feature where you show multiple different games at once. But
yeah, we try to do it.
The thing that I'll say very quickly while you're looking for this is, and this is kind of what we're talking about with our live streams, when we cover the game of soccer across the US, it's not like you see a lot of places. And I remember the first time, this is actually the first time you noticed me when I was doing soccer. That game, oh, there's double action. Yeah, very quickly. Yeah, show that, and then I'll get to my point here.
No, it just shows you that where we can show two games at once, right? Because they're both coming into our facility. We're able to, any game where the camera is coming into our facility, I can add that game into a broadcast very quickly, and that's the thing that separates us from the other companies, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're trying to, to do. And so yeah, so that's the difference maker, and that's what NSN brings to the table.
Yeah, but not only that too, but you got to consider the different broadcast elements, that it's little things that maybe people don't necessarily think about or don't necessarily notice, but they make the world of difference in what we do. In the first soccer tournament I did, it was a lavalier mic. And then we had one overhead cam, I think the 50, that just followed the action. That was it. And I remember that. And I remember thinking that was the most bizarre thing ever, because I've never done a game. I've done a game with standing mics, kind of like this mic. I've done a game with different stuff, but never before in my life have I ever done a game with just a lavalier mic and one camera. But that's what that was. And then I remember coming and joining you, and obviously we did what we did down at the Columbus Crew and other places. And I remember, I'm like, wow, okay. Number one, we got TalkBack, which to those who aren't in the industry, what TalkBack is the ability to talk to your producer while doing the game. The sound quality is there. We have replay, which, by the way, is not guaranteed everywhere you go. The only other place that I've ever had replay, at least me personally, again, I'm not speaking for everybody, but the only other place I've ever had replay, me personally, are the professional baseball games I've done. That's it. So we have professional replay. We have the ability to take these standing shots for pregame, halftime. We have the ability to have these rolling graphics. We can show you different games. We have these scrolling ads but we have all of the different elements of what a professional broadcast would look like. But now we're packaging it up in a way to where not only can we do the, MASL and all these different leagues, we're also doing the games on the lower levels as well. So broadcast quality is something that I think it's a very undervalued thing, especially to a lot of people who run organizations. And maybe it's just because there are some people in leadership positions, JT, and I know that you've seen this too, that are getting used to the digital age. Right? They know radio, and then typically the TV guys, unless you're a big company, they're not coming to you. But we're in this new age where it's like we're not radio guys. We are doing a lot of lower level sports, but it's not on 96.1 whatever the game. It's on our digital streaming platform. It's a full packaged television style broadcast that you can access. And that's the hardest thing, I think, for people to catch on to, because even with me, with what I do in pro ball and us streaming, the hardest thing is getting people to figure out where it is. And I know that you've made reference to that. You're like, if I could just give everyone in the world just one thing, you just click this one link, just boom, just put your finger on it, and then the game pops up on your screen. I would love it if that was the case, but we do everything we can to make that easier, right? Link in bio and all this other stuff. Here it is. It's easy to access. But I think that's the part of this whole experience is no, like that is something that is doable now. It wasn't doable 10, 15 years ago, at least not to the same extent it is now. But we have a full professional broadcast that we can package that is a TV style, and it lives up to all the hype that we keep giving it. And we can provide that to you, in one simple, easy to access place. So the other thing I'll certainly like is the pedigree. Obviously, Neil Rule being, where he is and having progressed as far as he has in his career. I thought his commentary was really good in that game. But yeah, it's the professionalism, JT. And it's not, we don't cut corners, and it's not, if you do cut corners, especially on a live broadcast, you're going to figure out why that's not advisable. It's going to come back to bite you at some point. So that's what I'll say about that. And this isn't something we just do for the MASL. I know we're showing, professional arena soccer league, and obviously that, that league has grown in popularity, especially down in Chihuahua too. I mean, Mexico has one heck of a soccer culture, but it's not just for the big dogs. It's not just for the pros. That's for everybody. So, no, that qualifies for Film Room Friday, because that was something, even going through me, and cutting up those highlights and whatever and trying to share those, that was really refreshing to watch. But that's what we offer.
No, and I couldn't agree with you more. The really cool thing about all of this is that I say this a lot: the sky is the limit, right? And there's not a better name for this show right in this moment when I say inside the game, right? Because when the feed comes to us, when we get a camera signal into our studio environment, I have this feed. Now, if you go to YouTube, if you go to other types of OTT type platforms, yeah, they have what they call pre-roll, right? So, and skippable ads, right? So you are watching the game, and then based on your behavior, YouTube and these other platforms will insert ads based on that behavior, right? It's called behavioral targeting, right? It's been something that's been done now for the last 15 or 20 years, right? And there's been called geo-targeting as well, where based on your location, advertisements can come your way based on local businesses that would fit within a certain geo-fenced area. And so that's happening already in these environments. And to be fair, you and I both know that people skip these ads. I don't know if there is a person on earth that is like, let me watch this full ad. It looks really exciting. I'm not saying that people don't do it, but it's probably more out of a forced thing, to be fair, where it makes you watch it for 30 seconds times 2. You can't skip it. And then, you go on your way. Inside of our games, the moment that we hit live to the moment that we hit stop, the space inside those games is 100% controlled by us.
Mm-hmm.
I want to repeat that. The moment that we hit the button live to the moment that we hit end, we control the space inside of that broadcast. And yes, there are commercials. So before the game, there's commercials. At halftime, there's commercials. And in post game, there'll be commercials, right? So, yes, I am not. We know that when we're doing a game at halftime, if we have 100 viewers, we'll see it drop to 60 viewers. We'll lose 40% of our viewers at halftime. What are they doing? They're on their phone at TikTok. They're stepping away, go to the bathroom. They're doing whatever. They're not watching the commercials. But those in-game breaks that I just showed you, the double action, the in-game break that we do, whether that be for anything on our network or anybody else, those in-game breaks, the game is happening. So while you're watching the game, I'm going to insert into your view and you're going to be forced to watch this. You can't skip it. You know, it's right there and it's going to live there in infamy forever. Right? And if we're lucky, a goal will happen. And I mean that in the most positive way possible, because then that goal now is associated with that in-game break and it lives there in your brain forever. So we know that. And that's what we're trying to sell to potential advertisers. Is like, hey, yeah, you can go. And this is why the NFL, and you're watching it now, you're seeing this happen. These in-game breaks are coming in at you because the NFL, along with all these other networks, they realize that the viewer at home, they step away. So if you can, while play is happening, we'll give you a commercial side by side. We can offer this to a potential advertiser where they know the person is consuming it, right? Is being consumed by the viewer. And because of that, it's a better overall outcome, potential outcome for that advertiser. And that's what we're trying to accomplish. But you also know that you have to have an ad. You have to have an ad with us. If you want to be seen, you still have to have an ad because there's still going to be 50% of our viewers who are going to stick around and just watch ads, see what you got. That's a thing. So that's why it's really important that we talk about that, because inside the game, if you want to get inside the game, you have to get in the game first. Call me. We'll get you some ad space.
Yeah. You're 100%. And that's when you control the entire product. That means that the ad that you buy or what you get, you know, when we dictate terms or when we're going to show it or whatever, you're not dealing with so many different elements that things can get kind of washed out. You know, we control the platform. And I think, like, again, going back to the whole digital age and what we're doing, that's a lot different. It's different. It's a different ball game. It looks and it sounds and it feels the same of what you would watch on a network, right? That's the important thing. We want to emulate the big boys as closely as we can. And I think we've done a lot of that. Now, is it perfect? No, but nothing's ever going to be perfect. And even if you go to an ESPN game or somewhere, you know, ESPN Plus, it's not to say they're not going to have tech issues, right? They still have a lot of problems that we have even in our digital sphere. So how do we emulate what the professionals do? That's one way, but we're doing it in a different way, in the way that we control the entire space. And so I think that's inviting to people because they don't have to worry about any outside forces in that regard. And specifically in when it comes to this topic, that's the most important, I think, selling point in my mind. So but for the viewing experience in general, you know, how do we closely emulate or try to create a product or something, and something that's entertaining to the same level as what we see if we were to tune into a national game? So the thing is we have it. You know, we have that. And so that's what makes this so much better.
And it's 100% true. And better can be perceived in a lot of different ways, right? It's not just in it. We talked about memories yesterday, and about, like, for me, there are things that I remember as a kid playing soccer that have stuck with me forever. I remember reading my name in the newspaper. I remember every morning after a game going downstairs to grab the Detroit newspaper, the Oakland Press, and seeing if my name was in the paper. I remember doing that. Seeing my team in the paper. There was something to be said about that, Nathan. It was awesome. And I remember the way it made me feel. And I'm like, if we could do that on some level for almost any kid that plays soccer in this country, in the form of a news article or them having their name being called in a game, why can't we do that? Because these kids, it's good. First off, if they love playing the game and maybe they're getting a little burned out, maybe, whatever. Maybe like this, maybe them hearing their name, going back and watching themselves play, maybe that will instill something in them that says, hey, you know what? I want to keep doing this. Maybe it is a
Right.
difference maker between, doing this and going and saying, I don't want to play anymore. I want to go hang out at the mall with my buddies,
Yep.
or whatever. Maybe it does do that. I'm not saying that that's our purpose, right? Our purpose is not to keep people in the game or to keep the game, I guess, going for certain players who otherwise wouldn't want to keep going. But what we are creating and what we are doing for these players is giving them an opportunity to be showcased in a way that hasn't been done before on a large scale, from youth to the professional ranks, and mainly in the youth to that semi-professional level, right? Because the professional ranks still get a ton of attention in this country, at least at the
Yep.
highest levels. But yeah, that's the part that I really want to make sure that people understand about what we do. It's about, yeah, and sometimes we're going to say the kid's name wrong, so that might have a lasting impact. We apologize for that. To be fair, we get rosters typically right at game time. Right? I mean, if I'm talking about the broadcast I have tomorrow at Oak University, I have the rosters. I've had them for the entire season. I get I get phonetics for every player that has a last name that the average person wouldn't know how to pronounce if they just looked at it. Right? We get these things at the youth level. I'm lucky to have a chicken scratch roster 5 minutes before the game. Where a coach took,
Right.
wrote
Yeah.
down like quickly with no numbers on it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not the same thing. Excuse me. So
Yeah.
it's we're gonna get that wrong. Now, how
Mm-hmm.
do we prevent that from happening? Well, if parents know ahead of time the game's gonna be called, then they can work with their team managers and the team to get the phonetics. I would also encourage every team on earth, just at the beginning of the season, create a roster for phonetics. Create a roster, number,
Mm-hmm.
player name, last name, hey, what maybe their hobbies, create like a hobby, what's their favorite thing to do? Like what's their favorite food, create things for a media guide.
Xbox.
Yeah, and then have the phonetics of their last name if it's not like Smith or Jones, and
Right.
you have that. And then if our game is going to be streamed, you can just email that to whoever.
Right.
Like I
Yeah.
want to actually
Well.
go on like the I would call it the club tour, right? Where I go to every club in America. They pay for me to come out to them. I talk to them, say, hey, it's 2025. Not only do I want to stream your games, but I want to also teach you on what you can do to help make it easier for your kids to get noticed
Mm-hmm.
by the media.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on the media tour, to Nathan. Let's do it. Let's me and you hop on some planes and some trains and some automobiles. Let's go to clubs
Nice.
across
Good pull.
America. Let's talk to these clubs and say, hey, you should have a form. Not just every team should have this form. To have your team manager as part of their thing, get your player's name, first name, last name, all right, hobbies, favorite food, little fun things, and have
Mm-hmm.
their phonetics. Have those
Mm-hmm.
things on this little sheet and have it ready.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? When we call you and say we're going to come and do your game, I've got it already. It's done.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait until the day before the game to do it. No, do it as part of your business strategy, right? And
Yeah.
and then
They're
we go
just
to
not used to it.
no.
That's the thing. They're
That's
not
why we
used
gotta
to
go,
it.
man. That's why I gotta go and say, hey, here's
Yeah.
my bill. Here's what I charge. I charge
Right.
my
And
hotel
it's
fee, my plane fee.
yeah, everything. And that's why it's kind of created the Wild West in one way or the other. Because with the technology that we have now, and the ability to really kind of do your own thing. And it's funny, the official scorer at the baseball team that I do games for, he also does some broadcasting for Aquinas College. He works as a director of communications there. He takes his own streaming equipment around. He's the only broadcaster I know at the NAI level who takes his own streaming equipment around and goes to all the games because he's retired. He can, right? But he has that capability of doing it to where he can literally offer a different broadcast for people to listen to on the road at these games. That's something that if you didn't have a radio station following you around, there's a pretty good chance that that wasn't happening not too long before. And so at the youth level, there's almost like, I wouldn't call it a war, but I feel like everyone's just trying to establish themselves in that realm because we have established networks, obviously, for the big guys, for the D1s and the professionals of the world, but we don't really have established networks for youth sports and for certain youth sports. And so that's the whole thing is, for us, we not only do we want to get out in front of it, but we want to kind of get everybody that we're calling these games for in the mindset of, this is a different age now. Like there's media everywhere. People are paying attention. If someone can show up and call your game, they're going to show up and call your game. This isn't the way it used to be where, either you didn't have a broadcaster altogether or, you had Jimmy who owns the lawn care company who happens to be the, the father of one of the kids that's playing, and that's completely different. So to us, I think the professionalism of it all and us, rolling up and having our banner and doing the pregame show and doing these interviews. I just think to some of these kids, it's just, and maybe their parents too, they're not used to it. They don't quite know how to respond to a media presence. And even listening to interviews, with Dan and some of the high schoolers, and believe me, I mean, it's tough for an 18-year-old to form a complete sentence. So, just generally speaking, but you can tell when, we kind of put that pressure on them a little bit and we bring the media to them in this big product that they're, in a way, they're kind of uncomfortable because they don't know how to approach that because they're not used to it. And so there's that struggle there where it's like, it's like, what's a good analogy for this? I don't even know what a necessarily a good analogy would be. I'll think of it. I'll probably think of one once the show comes to an end, but it's like rolling up to an antique car show with a freaking Ferrari, like, like there's this way we've been doing things for, 30 some odd years. And now you're bringing this, new like ESPN style full thing to us. Our club is not built to respond or be able to provide you the information that we need, but it should be that way.
Well, and to be fair, I think they think of it too as like a hindrance. Like I had a conversation yesterday with a club based out of New Jersey, and they're like, well, if I have to do things on game day, well, dude, yeah, well, of course. But if you send me a roster of all your players, like just give me all access to all your players, and then we'll take it from there. I don't need you to give me like the starting 11s.
I don't know. Yeah. And I don't know why it's so hard to put names and numbers on a PDF and send it to someone. I mean, I guess,
because it's not top of mind, man. I mean, like that's the battle we're going to have. Like, I'm going to be too busy coaching. Well, okay. I mean, yeah, I'm going to be trying to highlight your program and give you some elevate your game. And we're talking about how that's a hindrance to you. And at the same time, it doesn't make any sense to me. But it won't be this way in a year. It won't be this way in 2 years, where it's like you don't have a choice. I just talked about this with somebody yesterday. You don't have a choice anymore. You can't be in this world where you bitch and moan about not having coverage, and the second that someone comes to give you coverage, you tell them they don't have the time for it. And that's the thing. Like here we are, we're like knocking on your door and saying, hey, we're about to give you a whole bunch of notoriety and give you some coverage, live stream your games, do so at a high level, and elevate your game, level you up. And you're bitching about how you don't know if you have people to help us get rosters to us on game day. Like legitimately walk up to one of your freaking players and say, hey, Joe, guess what? Grab your cell phone, go to the referee, take a picture. Here's the number, send it to the Premier Media Group. Done. It takes
I'll give you $20.
13 seconds to pull that off. But no, I'm too busy coaching.
Yeah, that's too much.
It's like, come on, man. That's like seriously. Then don't bitch and moan about it.
Yeah.
Go close down your team. Go close your team down. Go shut it down. Go back to whatever, and don't worry about it anymore.
Yeah.
That's why when I was at the AGM for the WPSL here a few weeks back, I sat there and the first question I asked is, who here on game day streaming is your number one priority? And 2 teams put their hands up. And to be fair, I'm like, no, come on, dude, seriously, get out of here.
Yeah.
It's not your number one. Now, unless you're the streaming guy, girl, you're just streaming. Your job is to stream. Of course, your job, it's number one. But the collective team, it is not the number one priority. It is not. I know this because if the game doesn't happen, there is no stream. You don't stream a no gamer. You don't do that. No one sits there and goes, well, guys, here we are. There's no game today, but let's get the stream going off. That was our number one priority today. No, that's not how this works. The game has to happen. So the game is the number one priority and everything associated with that. Making sure your team shows up, the uniforms are there, the referees show up, they get paid, right? Fans show up, all these things become priority. The stream is not top priority for a team on game day at the amateur level. And if you were to call the MLS right now and go LA Galaxy, their stream is not the number one priority for them. The team, the stream is not number one priority. Now, for the overall, there's a streaming department or video department, their job. That's the number one priority. But that's not the case of these amateur teams. So that's why I laugh at this and say, come on, guys. I understand it's not your number one priority, but it's our priority. Let us take it off your shoulders. Let's outsource this to me. We will find a way to create an unbelievable experience for the viewer at home and find a way to monetize it for you. Just don't hinder us by telling us that you can't help us. I get it, and on the front end, it's all about front end work. Give me access to your rosters. And if you add a player, just let us know. And then we'll go to work. We'll figure it out. So,
yeah.
But yeah, that is
the majority of that struggle is just getting people to understand the value of good coverage. And I understand that a lot of times, especially financially speaking, when things maybe aren't going the way people want them to, we're the first on the chopping block. And I hate to put that out there, because I'm not trying to act like a victim at all here, but that's the truth. That's the reality of the business we're in. Sometimes we're the first on the chopping block. So I think it's more getting people to understand the value of having good coverage, the value of having a quality broadcast. I mean, especially in our foundational years, our early stages, as we start to, get on board with more and more teams, think of it in the way of making more money. I mean, the truth is you got to spend money to make money, and scared money also doesn't make money. And so when you're, saying that, oh, that's a hindrance and that's not worth it, or it's extra work. Well, yeah, but wouldn't you rather do that little bit extra to see the little bit extra on the back end, which is something that I definitely think we can provide for you? That's the hard thing. And again, it's so hard on the youth level, because once you get to the college and you get to pros, it's just, you expect these certain things. So the processes themselves are a whole lot easier, and I remember sliding into your broadcast over at Oakland after doing games at the wonderful Cornerstone University, which is on a track, by the way. And people love to walk in and around our shots because they like to act like they've never seen broadcasters ever do a game before. And then I go to Oakland University and everybody knows you guys and all the players know you guys. And because the processes are set up and they're in place and there's an expectation there at that higher level that sometimes isn't there at the lower levels. So that's the struggle. When we talk about inside the game and what we deal with and doing our jobs, that's the struggle, is trying to get these people to understand the processes surrounding having media at their games and actually giving them the outreach that they want. And what club in America doesn't want more outreach? What club in America doesn't want more coverage or more attention or more bodies or more numbers? Everybody, and we talked about it during our GOAT conversation. Everybody wants to say that they could lay claim to the next best player. How the heck are you going to do that? How the heck are you going to do that if no one knows about you outside of maybe the couple of towns around you? You're not. And so to me, that's the biggest component of all this. And that's the biggest fight that we have on our hands, is teaching people who are not seasoned when it comes to dealing with the media how to deal with the media. And so I think there's almost an educational component to this. It's not just that, we want to cover games, but also we want to educate people on, this is what the media is, this is what we do, and this is what we want to accomplish. This is why we're here. So I'll leave it at that.
No, and it's a great point. And obviously, we are doing a number of things in order to help and assist in that. And I don't ever want teams and clubs to think that we are a hindrance, that we are a value add, right, to everything that they do. That is a wrap here on episode number 33 in the books here, man, on this Friday, February the 21st. We're happy that you were being a part of this. We didn't have any Peter or Jimmy today. We did have Steve Best, though, which is always cool, right? So Steve Best, thank you. Appreciate you stopping by. I haven't seen Peter 2 days in a row now. I'm hoping he's okay. Maybe we should do a welfare check on Peter.
I'll send him a text later and see what he's doing. I think he might just be busy at the moment, but I don't know what he's got going on. But
no worries.
Check in on our friend Petey.
We will. Well, that'll do it for episode number 33. I want to thank you for stopping by. For Nathan Wenger, I'm Jonathan Turner. Inside the Game here is in the books on the National Soccer Network. We'll see you back here on Monday, same time, same place. This has been a presentation of the National Soccer Network.